In-depth journalism in the Memphis community, the Daily Memphian is of Memphis, not just in Memphis, and seeks to tell the stories of this city. TheDailyMemphian.com. Truth in place.
I'm Bill Dries with the Daily Memphian. We record this Wednesday, July 3rd, 2024. We are joined by Shelby County Commissioner Mickell Lowery, and this is On the Record. Commissioner, you have talked about a hip-hop museum being developed here in Memphis for a while, as there were many celebrations and cultural appraisals and documentaries and books about 50 years of hip-hop in America, the music, the fashion, the expression, the lifestyle. So as I understand it, you are now working with the AK Johnston Group, an events management company, and Trust Marketing, the Memphis marketing firm. Tell me where the plan is at this point.
Yeah, that's right, Bill. I think it's just important that we have a museum that celebrates that genre of music. As you know, Memphis' history is rich when it comes to music, and we have obviously Stax, and we have the Rock and Soul Museum, the Blues Foundations here, obviously Graceland and Sun Studios, but we don't have. Oh, don't think about the Rock and Soul. But we don't have a museum that celebrates the genre of hip hop, which is so influential throughout the world. And so I'm excited the fact that we finally got to a place where that work is starting with AK Johnston and Trust Marketing Group to start on the feasibility study for the museum. Basically determine, where should it be? What's the economic impact should it have on our county? What type of programming should be there? How does it mirror up with museums that are similar? And the good thing about hip hop is it's pretty, even though the genre of music has been around for 50 years, we just celebrated it. The museum concept is pretty new. So there's only one that's being developed right now in Brooklyn, and we could be on the forefront as these museums will start popping up across the country.
Mm-hmm. Did the county commission put up some in effect seed money to kind of start the ball rolling here?
Yeah, they did. Yeah, and I appreciate the commission for doing so. Several years ago, I spearheaded to start the Shelby County Music Commission, which is an advisory board now that the mayor now appoints and confirmed by the commission. And that was something I wanted to get started again to work on big projects such as this. So the pandemic slowed us down a little bit, as everyone can imagine, once we developed that ad hoc group, and then obviously had to pivot to how we met and things of that nature. But glad that we were able to kind of kickstart it back for some funding that the commission had previously approved to help with projects such as this.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned you're still looking for a site for this. Is there a place in Memphis that people would associate with hip hop, like a Stax or a Sun Records or Royal Studios? Because my impression is that the infrastructure for hip hop is pretty informal, and it also moves around a lot, and some of that is a function of what hip hop is, the improvisation and of different factors that go into it.
Yeah, that's right, Bill. That's the beauty of the genre, the beauty of hip hop, that it has so much impact on several communities, and several communities have had an impact on Memphis, whether it be Orange Mound, South Memphis, Whitehaven. We can go on and on. So I don't think that there's a central location where it has to be that just says, "Hey, this is the birth of this." In Memphis or in Shelby County, such as Stax or such as Sun Studios, where they had obviously, historic events that took place in those locations. So it was important to have those landmarks there, just as this National Civil Rights Museum. I think the most important thing from a feasibility study to determine is what's the right location for it can attract not only tourism, but also have a impact on economic development here from an educational standpoint. That we can obviously bring people who want to have repeat visitors. The most important thing I think will be for this museum is to be able to show young people that there are other aspects of industry around the music, right? It's not just in front of the camera. It's not just in front of the microphone, whatever it may be. There are engineering careers that are birthed from hip hop. There are obviously advertising, A&R roles. all type of things that surround the genre of music that I think from an educational standpoint that will help our young people realize, hey, there are things other than just being in front, again, of the camera, that makes up the beauty of the music. So I think hopefully when feasibility comes back, it'll say, well, what's the best location in the county to have the best impact, not only on economic development, on tourism, and on repeat visitors from an educational standpoint. And I'm looking forward to seeing those suggestions.
Right. And I think you bring up an important point here, and that is that hip hop at its origins, the image is of someone with a couple of turntables and a microphone, and hip hop has very quickly in 50 years, which historically is just a blink of an eye, hip hop has evolved, has changed to include people who play instruments as well, and that's something that people who don't keep up with hip hop might not know. They still think it's the guy with two turntables and a microphone, and it is in some cases, but it's much broader than that, right?
Well, it is. Well, the good thing about hip hop, that's how it started, right? It started by celebrating that music, and how do you turn those samples that some of the parents grew up with and turn those into a new genre of music. And so, that's always going to be the inception of hip hop. Two turntables and a microphone. You're exactly right. But what his birth from that is, now you have artists who play those instruments, who now made the sound their own, and really have heightened the ability for a lot of musicians to, quite frankly, have jobs at the end of the day. And so that's the beauty of the music, and the evolution of the genre is just so profound. Not only what it has on us here in our community, but as you know, just globally. What hip hop's done. You see it in everything you turn on. It's in every commercial. It's in everything we do. In fact, even the Olympics now has breakdancing as an event. Now, who would have thought that you could win a gold medal from breakdancing when people were doing those on the corners, out of court, cardboard boxes on the streets? So just the impact is profound, and Memphis can lead the way in celebrating the genre.
You have said in the commission's discussions of this that you're partial to Southern rap, made right here in Memphis, also made in the region, made in Atlanta. Is that perhaps the best approach to this, to take a segment of hip hop and maybe start there with
I
it?
think so. I think so, Bill. I think you have to celebrate where you are. And again, we all understand that the hip hop didn't start in Memphis, and the genres are in New York and in Brooklyn, and they're going to have a Universal Hip Hop Museum in Brooklyn. That's great. I think there's a reason why people want to go to visit that museum there. There are other similar museums in Atlanta that celebrates the Atlanta scene and their impact, and I think that's the reason you go there. And I think the reason you're going to come to Memphis is to see the Memphis impact as well. So you celebrate the inception. You do recognize where it started. You celebrate the East Coast and West Coast, and talk about how the inception of hip hop really started from a social justice aspect and also moved into some other outfits to have impacts on the community and the world. But I also think you come to Memphis for the uniqueness of what Memphis impact has had. So when you combine Stacks along with the hip hop artists we've had here, along with just a genre of music that has helped the blues, what has helped just make up hip hop, I think that's what's going to be unique about Memphis. So you celebrate all of it, but I think it's important to tell the story of what impact that the Southern regions had on the genre.
Right, right. And hip hop, of course, is fashion. Hip hop is more than music, although it's music at its core. At least that's my opinion. So is that also an element of
Oh, definitely. One thing you said fashion, but hip hop's also dance. And think about the impact that Memphis dancing has had on the world as well. I mean, we had people from Memphis who are in Apple commercials that celebrate juking, as you know, Bill. And that really, for most part, will say had its inception right here in Memphis. There are other people who want to claim credit for it, and that's okay. But we all know where that real baseline started, from juking or from gangster walking, things of that nature. Those are just dance elements that also make up hip hop. So it's important that museum celebrates all of that, the music as well, the fashion, the dance scene, the graffiti, which is now considered art, what is art in most aspects of the world. So it's just important that it encompasses all those things.
And your point about graffiti, I think is kind of a prime example of how vital hip hop is, but also how controversial it remains too. Is that a challenge to have a museum that accurately talks about hip hop reflecting what people were seeing on the streets at the time, and including the violence that was happening? Is that a difficulty in effect institutionalizing hip hop in a museum?
Well, I think Bill's important just that people understand the history and understand, and so hopefully it doesn't repeat itself. It's no different than us going to the National Civil Rights Museum and having very hard conversations about things that took place in our past. As we remember those things, but hopefully we see how we've gotten to a place to where we are today. That doesn't mean there still are things for us to overcome and challenges we won't have. I think that's similar. You have the same conversations around hip hop. Hip hop in its genre, not only the music, has been a source of outlet frustration. Graffiti has been a source of frustration, but also artistic expression, where people felt that they couldn't at the time. And there's been some barriers pushed. And you're right, there's been some controversy there as well. But I think you've seen the birth, when you can look at the birth of murals, and how a lot of cities, including ours, have embraced murals on places for blighted buildings, things of that nature. Well, I believe one of the probably baselines for that has been graffiti. And those artists who have been using big canvases and now use those same big canvases to do murals, even in our airports, on the side of our buildings. So, I think it's just important to understand the history from those things and how you mirror those things together, have those uncomfortable conversations, but you get to see where we are today.
Mm-hmm. Tell me more about AK Johnston, because from what I've seen online, it's a company in Anaheim, California, that has done some pop-up shops, things like that. Tell me more about what their role is in this.
Yeah, they've had extensive work with museums across the world, and so that's why one of the reasons why they were chosen. You want to have some folks who've done this work for the past, but more importantly, they partner with Trust Marketing, and Trust Marketing is local Memphis, and also led by Howard and Beverly Robertson. And Bill, as you know, Beverly Robertson was the executive director for the National Civil Rights Museum for the first 20 years of its inception. So she's been on the ground floor along with Howard and her company from the beginning of one of the flagship museums in the entire U.S. And so you want to partner with people who understand the local need as well as had a national presence. And again, there's not a lot of baselines of blueprints you can follow for hip hop. So you had to choose probably a firm that had some work with similar museums or large museums across the country. And that's where AK Johnston comes in. But with Howard and Beverly Robinson comes in with Trust Marketing is knowing the community, understanding the people, working directly with the National Civil Rights Museum and other brands here locally for years. So I'm excited about the team that we have together and look forward to what their outcomes are going to be.
Right. And exhibits are so critical to museums. And a long time ago, when you said, when you talked about a museum exhibit, it was what I think people who were in the business of doing those referred to as books on walls. And now, and we saw this with the most recent renovation of the National Civil Rights Museum. It's a whole lot more than that now. It's
Sure.
technology, and you have to keep up with that technology if you're going to be current and be relevant as a museum, right?
Oh, that's right. And especially we're talking about a genre as hip hop that's, obviously been pushing the envelope. It has to be interactive. It can't just be exhibits on the wall where you read a couple things, you move on like it's an art museum. That's probably great for art. But for hip hop, it needs to be interactive. How can you engage? How can you scroll down and see lyrics? What's meant behind the lyrics? What are the interviews? How can you immerse yourself in their own experience as well? What educational opportunities are there as well? So again, I'm more excited about it, Bill, because I think this could be a model for other cities as well. It could really bring a lot of tourism to our community. People across the world know Memphis for being a hub for hip hop. They know the impact it has not only in the southern region. And so having a state-of-the-art interactive museum that celebrates that genre of music, I think could be a really big game changer for our city.
Mm-hmm. Well, Memphis was an important stop for so many of what are now considered the pioneering hip hop acts. Run DMC, all of those folks came through here because Memphis was a really important stop for concert tours going way back before hip hop, but also during hip hop. Obviously, when those artists started to make it big, Memphis was on their circuit when they came through here. So tell me your favorite Memphis hip hop memory from growing up here.
Oh goodness, the favorite memory. I have so many of them. Some of the first concerts I was able to go to at the Mid-South Coliseum, where you saw my first hip hop concert was there. But we have so many impact on artists that have had on our community. When we started talking about, obviously from our early ages on, from 8 Ball, MJG, Al Capone, 3 6 Mafia, and now to today when we're seeing artists who are having global impact with Gorilla and Yo Gotti and the memory of Young Dolph and Moneybagg Yo. I can go on and on for all the artists, NLE Chopper. See, once you start naming people, you're going to name them all because they're all so important to the culture. All right, let me stop naming artists, all of them who've had an impact. So I think it's just important to celebrate the genre. Hip hop has had a profound impact on my life, just like I know many others as well. So look forward to seeing a day where we can break ground and celebrate the opening of that museum.
And we should also point out that the Greater Memphis Chamber, Ted Townsend over there, has talked a lot about the economic impact of hip hop and being able to make this more of an industry city for hip hop and all forms of music. But he specifically spotlighted the potential here for hip hop. Is it among your hopes that this museum can also, at the very least, aid that effort as well?
Definitely. We have to lean into our culture, and Memphis is right with a musical history. I believe Memphis is music, and I think we should own it. And developing museums such as this and supporting artists in our community, I think is paramount to aiding the Memphis Chamber. And what the Memphis Chamber wants to make sure what we're doing is obviously driving people here and creating a community that's vibrant and for development and everything else. So I believe this project, and that's why we'll be looking for broad base of support, can aid in those efforts.
All right. Is there are you looking for people to make contact with you, ideas with their ideas for this at this point, or are you kind of setting up the framework to do that a little further down the road?
Yeah, sure. We could do that now. In fact, that's what Trust Marketing is doing here locally. They're having the stakeholder meetings and community engagement meetings have started. They're reaching out to folks to have those meetings and reaching out to artists to make sure they're meeting with artists to get their input as well. This can't be just something that someone creates in a vacuum and say, hey, here's a building, build it, there it come. It had to have community support, has to have the support of the artists. We want to make it as authentic as possible. This should be something that, outlives you and me, Bill, at the end of the day. And so for us to do that, they have to have those conversations. So those are starting right now. So they can contact my office and I can make sure they get in with Trust Marketing as they have those meetings going forward.
All right. We have been talking with Shelby County Commissioner Mickell Lowery as part of a story that you can read at dailymemphian.com about plans for a new hip hop museum. I'm Bill Dries, and this has been On the Record.